mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episode 6 of Showtime's new limited series, Dexter: New Blood, entitled Too Many Tuna Sandwiches. What a weird title this was. And even though it became clear what the title was referencing, it was still it's a weird title to choose. But I think they did it just because it was weird. But the line is referencing, the title is referencing a line that Dexter says in the episode. He says, earlier in the episode, he says that he heard that too much tuna is bad for you, so he'll have a pastrami sandwich. This is when he's ordering at the bar. And then later, once he figures out that Kurt is the person who's kidnapping and killing these women, he says that his instincts are off, and he says too many fucking tuna sandwiches. So that's a reference to where he kind of like almost chides himself for not discovering sooner that Kurt was the person doing this. So before I get started, obviously I'm in a different area than I normally am. I'm in my son's room. There's a lot of hustle and bustle and noise and things like that going on in my house, so I had to move from my usual location. So if the audio is a little wonky, forgive me for that, but I had to do what I had to do because there was a lot of great television that happened on Sunday that I needed to talk about. So here we are. This will be hopefully the last time I have to do this. So I thought this was a really good episode, a comeback episode after last week. I had a lot of issues with last week's episode, but I felt like a lot of really interesting things happened in this episode that I found noteworthy and interesting. Great scenes. I'm going to obviously talk about those scenes, but I thought this was a strong comeback episode. And I think they're starting to send this in a really interesting direction. Like, this kind of feels like, I don't know how many episodes are going to be. I'm assuming 10. This kind of feels like these last 4 are going to be really good stuff. So I think the biggest moment of this episode, and this is a debatable thing. Like, everybody else can have a different big moment and be right about it, because there's a lot of big moments in this episode. But Angela confronts Dexter about who he actually is, and Dexter proves to be yet again the most prolific on the spot liar that has ever been in television. And I think I said this about him before, is that the best lies have some truth to them. And everything he tells her is true. He says he was afraid of death. He wanted to run. He wanted to kill himself. He mentions what happened to Rita. He mentions what happened to Deb. All of this true. But he just leaves out the little part about him being a serial killer. But now that she's, kind of like on to him, he tells this lie, which is a pretty good lie. Most people would kind of almost feel bad for even going off on him in the first place. Like, oh, that makes sense. But Angela's still not on board. She kind of sort of dumps him, it seems like. And then he goes to leave and he says, "Are you going to keep my secret?" And the look of disgust on her face, like, all of this that we've just now divulged. I've talked to you about trust, and you're going to ask me if I'm going to keep your secret. Like, what? But that's your takeaway. And there's other moments in this episode where I feel like Dexter is taking away the wrong the wrong message from conversations that happen. And that conversation, he's just not good at reading the room. You should not have said, "Are you going to keep my secret?" You should have just took the L and left, because that did not go over well. Understandably so. But that was a great scene, though. That conversation. So I like that Dexter thinks that Molly, the podcaster, is onto him, because he has every reason to think that. It makes perfect sense. Supposedly Matt's been found. There's no reason for her to still be there. He finds out that she's not dating Logan anymore. So it's like, okay, she's still here for some reason. Logan says that she's been meeting with Angela in secret. Like, he has every reason to believe that it's Molly who figured him out. And she has a whole podcast with episodes about people he killed. And also one where she says that she suspects that Dokes was not the Bay Harbor Butcher, which, as we know, he was not. And he has every reason to believe it. And he would never think. I wonder if Batista said something. Like, he would never think that. And I think that's what's interesting. He may figure out that, because part of what helped Angela piece it together was her daughter telling her that Harrison said Jim Lindsay wasn't his real name. So when she combined that with Batista mentioning Harrison, she started digging and she found what she was looking for. So he may figure out that Harrison had some sort of involvement, but how could he ever think that Batista was involved in this? So I thought that was an interesting turn of events as well. Let's see, where am I? Oh, okay, yeah. I thought both of them at therapy was another great scene in this episode because, you know, I don't even know why Dexter would agree to go to therapy because he's gonna have to lie about everything. Like and he does, but the problem is he does it so poorly in this situation when he did it so well with Angela, because he's lying in front of somebody who knows the truth. He says something like, you know, my marriage to his mother fell out or something like that. And Harrison's like, fell out? She got murdered. Like, what do you mean fell out? Like, and we know that. Even when he said that, even I was like, Jesus, Dexter, like, come on, man. Like, you don't even have to lie about that. You could have just said she got, you know, his mother was killed. Like, he didn't have to lie about that. But then it led to a great moment that I really liked when Harrison said that he felt abandoned there in that moment on that couch. And I thought that was a great scene. I feel like he explained it a little bit too much. Like, he didn't have to get so specific, like here on this couch. But when he said, I feel abandoned, I feel like he could have left it there because it was very clear that he was talking about feeling abandoned in that moment because he clearly came to take therapy seriously. You know, he said everything, he really opened up when he spoke. And then every time Dexter spoke, he lied about something. And for him to say, I feel abandoned, like you made me come here, I'm clearly committed to this and you aren't. So like you're abandoning me again, like you're letting me put myself out here and open up and be vulnerable and talk about these things, and you're not willing to do the same thing. So I thought that was a great scene. Like I said, I wish he hadn't leaned into it so much by being so descriptive of what he meant. As soon as he said, I feel abandoned, I knew like, oh, he means right now, which makes sense. So, but even though he leaned into it a little bit too much, I thought that was a great scene. Another great scene was the scene with Audrey and Harrison. Audrey, yeah, that's Angela's daughter's name, right? Audrey. I don't know. For some reason, I'm questioning it now. But well, one, I didn't like the fact that Harrison like snuck in through her window unannounced. Like, who does that? Like, he didn't send a text first. Like, he had an open invitation through somebody's windows. That's how motherfuckers get shot. I don't know why he thought that was a good idea, especially someone who's as big of a criminal as he probably is. Like, he's probably committed a lot of crimes in his time. And like Audrey said, her mother's a cop. Why would you just sneak into someone's house uninvited? But that aside, I liked the conversation that they had where he admits that he thinks about hurting people all the time. And Audrey, instead of shunning him, kind of says, I relate, I understand. I can relate to your abandonment. I can relate to how that makes you feel. She tells an interesting story about how her birth mother abandoned her, and then and her father meets Angela, and everything's smooth, and then her father dies, and now her and Angela have moved on, but she still doesn't really feel part of Iron Lake because I think she said like her birth mother was just white, and her father, who's now dead, would have been like Native American for that tribe or whatever. I forget what the Seneca tribe or something, but she doesn't feel like she has a place either. And so I thought that was a really good conversation for them too. But then when they start to make out, we see that he has his razor in his back pocket. And I wondered if that was like, does he carry it around all the time for protection? Or did he come there prepared to harm her if she was not receptive to what he was going to say? So like that's, again, a heavy scene. And then they have sex, and then the next morning he's still there. You think she don't have parents? Like, what? And again, her mom is not just a cop. She's the chief of police. Like, why would you stay? I don't, that I didn't understand either. But my other favorite scene of this episode, it's probably my favorite scene of the episode actually, is after Dexter discovers that Kurt's the one that's kidnapping and killing the women, and he has Molly with him, and we piece together like, okay, Kurt just struck out with the other girl at the diner who had the boyfriend. He just struck out with her. He's going to settle for Molly instead. We're realizing that. But Dexter is there, and she gets out the pepper spray. She's getting nervous, and Kurt's doing this whole song and dance where he's knocking on the door. Matt, come on. Like, and we're sitting here like, we know Matt's not in there. He knows Matt's not in there. And Molly's starting to suspect he's not in there as well, and that this is a trap. And then Dexter pops up. And Dexter makes it even more interesting because Kurt knows Matt's not in there. Dexter knows Matt's not in there. We know Matt's not in there. Molly's the only person who doesn't know this. And they also don't know what the other person knows. Now, Dexter knows that Kurt knows Matt's not in there, but that's really all we get. And everyone has this knowledge of the reality, but they're all performing this song and dance routine of let's check and see, or maybe we should. I'd love to talk to Matt. Is he in there? Like this whole thing, like Dexter's pressing it, and it's almost kind of played for laughs at times, but it's still a very intense and kind of nerve-wracking scene because what's going to happen? Like we all know what's going. Like I said, we know that they know, and they know that they know. But they're all doing this kind of like performative BS routine. And you're just wondering what direction this is going to go because he was about to kill her. And now they're all putting on this show. And I thought that was such an incredible and intense scene. And I love how when Dexter just barges into the room and he quickly observes that the door locks on the outside and he sees the camera. And he didn't see the you're already dead thing. I think that's what it says on there. He didn't see that. But I love how after he makes these observations, when they go to leave, Dexter goes, "You want this open or closed?" And I thought that was such a funny line because, again, Dexter knows Kurt's the killer and that the door locks from the outside. Kurt knows that he's a killer and that the door locks from the outside, so that if Dexter closes the door, he wouldn't be able to get out. And I just thought that was like kind of like Dexter kind of just playing with his food. I got this guy dead to rights, and now I'm actually gonna just like rub it in. I'm just gonna mess with him a little bit. So I thought that was a really great line. Let's see what else I have here. Let's see. The wrestling match. Another great scene in this episode. Harrison breaks this kid's arm on purpose. And Kurt showers praise on him. Kurt encouraged him. Dexter does not. So they're kind of making this play to where Harrison's kind of moving a little bit more toward Kurt and a bit away from Dexter. And Dexter has a moment. He correctly says, Kurt encouraged you to do that, right? And Harrison pauses. But Dexter fucks it up by taking this call from Angela, which of course he had to take, but he had a moment to connect there and he blew it. So, but that was a tough scene to watch because you just knew something bad was going to happen, but you didn't know what it was. And when he had that submission in, I was like, oh, and the guy starts tapping. I'm like, oh my God, he's not going to let him go and he's going to break his arm. It's going to be gross. And that's exactly what happened. So Angela discovers her friend Iris in this cave. I didn't know where this cave thing was going. And I still don't really know what happened here or how this is going to tie into everything else. But I do like the fact, the episode ends with Angela calling Dexter and saying she doesn't need Jim Lindsay. She needs Dexter Morgan. And we don't get enough on this show because he doesn't work for Miami PD anymore. We don't get enough of Dexter analyzing what happened at a crime scene. So I'm really looking forward to that. I miss it. Dexter looking around and figuring out what happened well, I can't even say a crime scene. It could have been an accident. But I'm really looking forward to seeing Dexter do that next week. So that should be pretty cool. And then my last question, and I don't think there's any answer to this yet that anyone could give unless they're knowledgeable of some whatever thing he might have going on. But what itch is Kurt trying to scratch? Like, I can't quite get what's happening because it's not a simple thing as he just likes to kidnap and kill people. There's the whole thing of making them run away, shooting them in the back, how upset he got when he had to shoot the last girl in the face, how upset he got when he couldn't fix it this week. And then the fact that he almost seemed like uncontrollably frantic at not being able to scratch whatever this itch is. And he's walking around pissed off. He seems to settle, he finds this other girl at his diner. That doesn't work out. Then he starts to freak out a little bit even more. And I'm just wondering, like, what is his deal? We see him dressing up. We see that he's dressed up the girl from last week. So we know he dresses them up afterwards. But what does he do? Like, I don't know. I'm just really curious at what his deal is. So that's pretty interesting as well. So that's all the main things I want to talk about from this episode. But I do have one thought, and this ties into what I was saying earlier about Dexter taking away the wrong things out of conversations. At the beginning, Harrison's doing chores, and before Dexter's even woken up, and we come to realize it's Harrison taking Kurt's advice. He's saying, he said, do something nice for the person that's pissing you off. Dexter's pissing him off, so he's doing something nice for him. Dexter then refuses to sign this job application to work with Kurt because he has concerns about Harrison being around Kurt, which we know are valid concerns, but Harrison doesn't. And then when he won't sign it, Harrison drops the whole act and tells him to fuck off, all this kind of stuff, right? And he becomes a complete petulant child, storms off into his room. And then Dexter goes, why is Kurt so interested in my son? I'm like, that's what you took away from this conversation? Like, Dexter is failing miserably at times as a father to have that happen. And his takeaway is that Kurt is interested in his son and not this whole blow up that just happened and why Harrison is acting this way. I just thought that was really, really interesting. So that's all I got for this episode for this week. A good solid return to form for this show. This has been a pretty entertaining season aside from the pitfalls from last week. This isn't winning any awards, but it is entertaining, and I'm enjoying seeing Dexter again. And it looks like these last 4 episodes are probably going to be pretty good. So I'll see you guys next week for episode 7. Yeah, 7? Yeah. Peace.